Hey everybody, this is Adam.
And this is Josh.
And today we have an extra special ooey gooey multicolored treat for y'all peeps.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of speaking with Martin Warner and Mike Duma of botObjects.
Yep. Just
announced the ProDesk 3D, a full color 3D printer for the desktop.
That's full color, people. This is crazy. They claim that they can take 5 colors of PLA plastic and mix them on the fly to make full-color plastic prints on a desktop 3D FDM printer.
Yeah, crazy.
Crazy.
Cool.
Crazy stuff.
Now, we haven't confirmed that this is real. We've seen nothing at all, actually, but if it is real, it's it's a huge deal.
Game changer. This would be a huge, huge deal. And if it sounds too good to be true, well, let's hear it from Mike and Martin themselves, and you can decide for yourself what you think.
Rocket. Well, Mike Duma and Martin Warner of botObjects, welcome to the show. Now, you guys have developed the very first full-color desktop 3D printer. Tell us about the botObjects printer. What is it all about?
Yeah, so far as we're aware, it's the first, color's been around for a while, multicolor's been around for a while, but full color is something that's particularly difficult because we're liquidizing a non-liquid substance. So what we try to do here with this printer was take what we've seen was some really exciting, what I call kit innovations or kit products, which is what happens in a lot of these early markets, and try to think about a mature printer. But rather than think about just maturing the design of the printer, so you'll see from the look of our printer that it looks very industrial. It looks like it's something from the future. But the reality of the situation was we wanted to do things inside that made it a little more innovative. The big thing for us was full color, so we took essentially a proprietary cartridge system, which was one of the more trickier elements of our research, and basically decided to think about cartridges just like you see in normal printers that you buy from HP or Lexmark or Brother or any of those, and think of the CMYK model and say, well, okay, we've got 5 primary colors. How would we look at taking a substance like PLA and melt and mix this, and then bring back true full color, as opposed to multicolor, which is just a extruded system, right, where you've got just different heads.
Right. Let me take a step back here and just clarify. I think a lot of our listeners are familiar with 3D printers like the MakerBot, for example, that's got a PLA print head that squirts out plastic like an icing bag, to make your 3D thing. And traditionally, full-color printing has only been available with other kinds of technologies. Never when you're doing FDM printing, fused deposition modeling printing. But you guys say that you're melting the plastic and then mixing it with some kind of ink and actually making a full-color plastic part out of PLA. Is that right?
Correct. We're not actually mixing with ink, though. We're mixing 5 PLA colors.
Yeah.
Wow.
Produce the final color.
There's no additional substance or ink. It's the PLA itself.
What? You just blew my mind. Just melted.
I hope so.
It just came out my ears.
That's I can't wait to see how this works. I mean, the package of the printer, the image that you have on your website just looks amazing. It looks very compact. What can people expect as far as the build size? Is it just PLA? Is it going to be easy to adjust?
By the way, right now I feel like, I'm sorry, just one quick little side note for the listeners. I think Josh and I are talking like this is an infomercial right now, but frankly, we are hearing about this for the first time. We're not being paid by these people. This is just amazing. I'm sorry. So continue.
I mean, honestly, we've been doing a few conversations where what we call the early launch stage, the soft launch, and it's so nice to see the excitement because when you spend a couple of years trying to research this, you don't know where you're going to ultimately end up when you start the journey. But we really think, for the time being, because obviously things move on, people innovate. There's a lot of this space has become so sexy in 2013. I think as a category area, 3D desktop printing probably is it for 2013.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. So it's really nice to have something that positively contributes to the space. And I think it raises the benchmark, and it's going to make other people do the same too.
How long have you been working on this, by the way?
Well, secretly more like 3 years, but we like to say
Okay.
No, I mean, I think when We've both been thinking about it individually for probably just over 3 years. We got cracking on this probably just over 2 years ago. And it's taken, a lot of it has been just R&D, and the problem with this thing is that you've got what I call compact engineering. You've got a confined space, and you've only got a certain amount of elements that you can work with, and all of them needed to be changed. So the way we thought about the print, and we're not disclosing proprietary things at this stage, but essentially the cartridge system is eco-friendly, it's reusable. That was a big challenge for us, huge challenge. The build platforms that are not self-calibrated. I mean, if you've looked at the MakerBot or Cubex or others, you'll see they're using paper and stuff. It's it's kit-like. It's what's needed for experimenters or experimental makers to get involved with this kind of products. We've got a self-calibrated build platform. It took us forever, and that meant that the software, and I invest in a lot of software technologies, so we've got software developers all over the place. Just getting the software to work, because there was no point building something this advanced if we couldn't have simple software as well that could control that. So there's a lot of things that went, even down to the cooling. Our tri-fan system that's really compact, I think is probably the best fan system on the market in these kind of printers. And again, that was critical to making this work.
That is fantastic. So actually, I've been dealing with a MakerBot for a while now. We've talked about on the show once or twice some of my trials and tribulations as I get this up and running. And so far, I have managed to figure out how to make it work. But central to that has been learning how to calibrate the build platform, which is hard to do, and it's kind of annoying, and B, dealing with the thermal problems that are kind of associated with just having an open build platform out in the room, where the materials tend to curl up if they have uneven cooling and stuff like that. And it sounds like you have all that stuff kind of wrapped up in this thing.
Yeah, we thought about that considerably, to be honest. But I hear you. But I will say I commend these players, because if it wasn't for Cubify or Cubex, it's certainly the MakerBot. If it wasn't for these players coming into the space, we wouldn't know where to start with our ideas.
Absolutely, yeah.
But all these things are there to evolve. I really hope, because it was absolutely part of our industrial design process, that people feel like they've got art on their desk, on their desk, and they feel like they've also got a printer that's going to sit around, and in 5 years' time they say that's what they should look like. This is what the printer should do. And hopefully we've got enough things. Obviously, we're going to continue to innovate, but we're hopefully coming out of the gate. We can talk about timeframes a little later, but we've got enough innovation that will attract people.
So really interested in finding more about the software. But first, what build sizes are we looking at here?
Mike,
yeah. So the build height is 300 millimeters, and then the actual platform dimensions are 275 by 275, and that gives a build volume of roughly 1,380 cubic inches.
You just switched from millimeters to inches there, buddy.
Yeah.
We're British. What do you expect?
That's right. We're so backward in America. We won't even go halfway. We'll just stick with the inches entirely.
Sorry about that, guys.
It gets to a ridiculous number.
Well, actually, so the way that I do it is I do work in millimeters as well. And so for the listeners out there, the width of your hand is just about 100 millimeters, probably. So we're talking about 3 widths of your hand, probably.
Great. That's the best example I've heard.
Yeah, which is actually a pretty big build area, by the way. And so we're talking about, you've got multiple PLA beads coming into this thing, and they're mixing in real time. And I'm seeing, like, in my head when I picture this right now, I'm seeing like if Willy Wonka made his own soft serve ice cream machine that's like making swirly. How do you actually get this to come together into a cohesive color instead of just kind of a pool of mud?
Well, I think the best way to describe that is to say that it starts with thinking about just if you want the condensing process, which happens after the cartridge loading. And I would probably say you want to look at it, and probably you'll determine for you. If you open it up, you'll determine for yourself. But we don't talk too much about the proprietary bit that sits above the cartridge, just because at the moment that's being patented.
Oh, I see.
To be honest, when you look at it, if you come to the summer demo party, the truth is that, like all these things, you can open them up and you can see. We can't prevent that, but obviously we can control the law. and we can control the pattern process, which is immensely long, as you probably know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And you can control the software, too, which is controlling all the mixing and whatnot and all that. Now, and that is a lot of times the current frustration with the 3D printers is the software side of things. Sounds like you guys have the hardware wrapped up. What about the software? Are you using your own software, I imagine, or are you using something like Slicer or one of the other programs that's integrated into the process?
I mean, again, this is what we're prepared to tell you. We're lying if we say we wasn't inspired by things like SkinForge, because these people, they came up with what I call the bare bones of how this needs to happen. But the problem that both Mike and I found was that you needed to be immensely technical to understand. And no one has that time. I mean, the reality is, if you look at some of the methodologies of how things are getting printed or designed in order to get them into the system, it still gets held up before it arrives on the build platform. So we're inspired by it. We wrote it from scratch. Nothing difficult there. But what was really difficult was how we use what we call sliders in order to make it simple for people to understand what they were doing. And what we've got are a set, and we won't call how many, but we've got a set of auto checks that allow it to not autonomically but automate what it's looking at. And that's so from a let's just say a layman, someone that doesn't understand this stuff, we hope that the sliders in the interface go so much further to allowing you to determine what you think you need to print, and then the auto checks correct it. We've tried this on people that know nothing about 3D printing, and we've gone considerably far. That's not to say there have not been questions with our software, because there certainly have, but it goes immeasurably further than what's available on the market today. And by the way, guys, that was critical. This kind of simple software was critical for the launch of this kind of product. Yeah. Otherwise, there'd be no point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So basically,
No doubt.
we simplified the user experience. We've tried to take the layman with no experience of this, whatever, use sliders in order to give you the range in terms of the parameters you want to set, and we've got automated auto checks that tell you whether you're there or not. So things like, and I cannot, unfortunately, I'm trying to do this without giving away a lot around what. Guys, we'll happily show you this. Don't think we're being obtuse or anything, because of course we want. We're desperate to share as much as we can with you, obviously.
I'm sure.
What we can say to you is that the software achieves everything it needs to achieve. However, remember, this is 3D printing. So if you're not a little enthusiastic about it, my mother could use the software, put it that way.
Right.
I'm not kidding you.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what all parameters you need to adjust, when you're dealing with a full color print like that. I know with the Makerware from MakerBot, they actually do an impressively good job, I have to say, in terms of, you drag your STL in there and it puts it in the center of the platform automatically, and you just hit print. It kind of works. So what other stuff do we need to adjust here?
Well, it's more around color. It's more around coloration.
I see.
And what you can do with coloration, and that's the hint, guys.
Interesting.
Yeah, and come back to me on that one, because I would love to share that more with you later on.
All right, so here's another question that's been bedeviling the 3D printing industry for quite a while that I know you're probably not going to have a conclusive answer, but I'm just curious what you think. I would posit that the biggest hurdle to getting people using these kinds of technologies right now is not 3D printing hardware and not even slicing software. I think it's actually the content design software that's either too difficult to use or too expensive to be accessible. So how do you design as your mother? How would your mother actually go about making a full color 3D model that she could then print on your printer?
Oh, I think that's a fantastic question, and I have to be careful because I'm about to fund a new venture on 3D. So I couldn't agree more with you.
Right.
I think ultimately things like slicing software, that stuff works itself out.
Right.
But I think the problem is that the concept of 3D modeling is still fairly technical. So it's not for every person. So there's obviously a couple of things that we come back to here, and that's the rate of innovation in scanning, because that can do it. And again, it's just not there at the moment.
Right.
There's a lot of attempts at it. We may, down the road, look at that. We're hoping other people will do the job for us.
Right.
So easy scanning, and it's going to come in different sizes, but also first principles 3D modeling. You've got to go back to, think about, before we had a decent smartphone, you had software that was button-based. And it wasn't until Apple used the finger to bring a whole bunch of gestures that were a lot easier to use. And I think of almost 3D modeling like that, going back to first principles. You need to take the complexity out of the type of things that you're drawing. Also, orientation of 3D models. So looking at what's in the foreground, what's in the background, and being able to bring objects that aren't three-dimensional by nature but are part of the design is critical. So taking the fabric away from the 3D model, which we've just seen something that really blew our mind. We can't quote it, by the way, but I will tell you that they said the way they went about this software was to think about 5-year-olds using it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they went right back to things like gestures, how they use their fingers, how they use the shape of objects. So a little bit like Frank Lloyd Wright in architecture. If you look at everything he does, it still has those principal object sizes there. And they went back to that perspective before they thought about how they wanted to render a 3D model, how they wanted to build that software. So, it's got to become a lot more simpler. And where it becomes really complex, you've got the combination of scanning. It's certainly not going to be CAD. You're going to have all these things that have always been there from the dawn of time. I mean, CAD was doing a good job 20 years ago, and no doubt we'll probably do it in another 10 years' time.
Right.
But the everyday software, you're going to have the bureaus knocking stuff out. I think bureaus are interesting because whether it be Shapeways or others, they're going to stay around. And what's very interesting is if you don't have the image, I think they'll start taking images and they'll start making the drawings themselves.
Right.
And for a service world, that's going to work real well for some people. Whether it gets into a marketplace, who knows? I wouldn't bet against it. But then I think the scanning world will take care of the things that for the creators that want to do it on their own. And then you're going to find a very early generation of 3D modeling software where you can go back to first principles, and you won't be able to draw complex objects, but I think you'll be able to get quite a long way with it. I hope that goes some way to answering the question.
Yeah, very sounds like some interesting things ahead for 3D software. Really interesting stuff you have going on here. The big question, what is the price going to be?
Oh, guys.
Come on. You help us out. Help us out.
No, I mean, it's a fair question. So just so you know, we won't be publishing prices till early June, but I'll give you a heads up.
Tell me this. Will it compete with the MakerBot Replicator 2, for example?
Well, let me tell you, this product is a major step ahead of the current contemporaries. It needed to be. Why build something, right? It needed to innovate. So we are, I can say, going to be highly competitive with who you've just mentioned.
But more expensive, I'm gathering based on your qualifications there.
No, highly competitive, and we will probably better our competitors' prices. So if you're looking at, I'll be very blunt, Cubex, the Form 1, Formlabs or MakerBot, where their price point. I mean, let's say advanced orders it's between $2,000 and $2,300 roughly dollars.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be around there.
You're hoping to compete in that area. Yeah.
We're not going to be more expensive, but I tell you now, the product you get, both from an artistic presence, from a performance, we've not talked about accuracy from PLA to full color, it's a leap ahead. And we hope that people view that the way we do.
I absolutely believe that based on everything you're saying. And I want to ask, I want to take a big step back here for a second and ask you to do something. Let's go about this a little bit differently. We started at the beginning and kind of jumped straight into the technical stuff, and that's cool because our audience loves that. But let's take a big step back and say, okay, what is this for? Who's going to use this, and why are they going to use it? And why are they going to buy this product and use it instead of using Shapeways or a bureau, for example?
Oh, I love that question. I mean, I think the inspiration for me, I mean, just, you know, I invest in a lot of things for the small business market. I love utility services, I love utility computing, and I love the way small business innovates. So for me, when I come at this from the angle of, you know, what happens if the small agencies, whether it be architects, graphic designers, industrial designers, artists, agencies that service the automotive world, you know, aeronautics, I could keep going on and on and on. There's a whole bunch of engineering places that have a home for this kind of printer. I think of it, I always, even though I want it in the home just as passionately, I always think of the small business.
Right.
Or if I want the small medium enterprise. Because let's face it, they're just as applicable. So, you know, where you're not going to spend the tens of thousands of dollars and go for the really big machines, and you've got, let's say, a portfolio of customers, and where physical or object design becomes a competitive edge, or more importantly, it just eases the customer into a relationship where they understand what they're buying. So I think of architecture as a great example of that. Or I don't know about you guys, but you know, I was in Anguilla recently, a little Caribbean island, and we were looking at an apartment, and my wife said, you know, I really want to buy it. And I said, well, let's just look at the overall environment. I said, let's walk around it. Instead, we walked into an office, and you know those little miniature designs where you see like the whole campus?
Right.
Out of, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Yep.
those are fantastic. You know, the guy said, oh yeah, it cost us $16,000 and we had 2 made. I thought, wow. I thought, Jesus. I mean, I thought, if this was a few years along and maybe a little faster, you could have that knocked out in a week and it would probably cost you, you know, the better part of $500. Right. And so there are just many examples where I think that, you know, this will become more than just rapid prototyping and not necessarily discrete, you know, manufacturing. I think those are other big gambit opportunities. You know, the idea of printing dentures or prosthetics, I think that stuff's fantastic, or printing components for larger objects. I think all that's going to happen. But I just think about the end customer and come in and saying, this is what your house is going to look like. Or Jaguar looking at the curvature of their new wing of their car and just being able to see that quickly, physically, as opposed to in a rendered design on a screen. I think that's my starting point of how we'll market this product. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's the left hand talking to the right hand. The right hand is saying, you know what, we want every home. I mean, I don't want to coin cliches because I have the chance to meet them, and I look at Gates and his early statements around, you know, putting a PC in every home. Well, wouldn't it be great? I mean, if they're too expensive to be in every home. Let's face it. But in 10 years' time, if you could get a reasonably competent 3D printer for $300 to $600 in your home, we would have moved an awful long way. So here's the word, guys. We're a prosumer-based product.
Right.
That's where we're aiming. And that's why the price for now, for competitive reasons, and also because of where we are as a company, needs to be in that 2 mark that you've been referring to. But absolutely for professionals and also for consumers.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to seeing this. The website is botObjects.com. Is that where people are going to be able to purchase it?
They'll be able to purchase it on botObjects, and maybe we haven't disclosed yet in a few other places. And they will be able to check into Twitter. We're just getting going. We're going to be doing an enormous amount of communication.
And when is that launch again?
So we're taking early orders from June 1st or around that day, within a couple of days of that.
All right.
All right. Great, guys. Well, Mike and Martin, thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
A production of EVD Media.